validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. We got us a very interesting Tuesday night show today. We're going to be talking about the brokerage question that we were asked last week. I told you guys we were going to get into that. I found quite a few things that I thought was pretty interesting. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe as you come through. Also, you know that you guys can utilize those notifications, the reaction buttons that we have going on the show to show your appreciation for the things that we got going on the show here. Note that we are live 7 nights a week. That let's shift this a little bit over because I'm leaning on this side. We are live 7 nights a week at about 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is about 11 o'clock Florida time, 7 o'clock California time. That's in the PMs at nights. You know that is also equivalent to the 4 a.m. Green Minutes time and Universal Standard Time for those of you on the eastern side of the world. I can only imagine that when I end up on the eastern side of the world, that I'm going to be trying to air the show. I'll be setting me a 2 a.m. alarm clock to get up and get myself situated so that I can air that show at 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, man, got to keep that time slot. But regardless of the fact, wanted to put it out there that since we're live 7 nights a week and we're talking about all things business, finance, self-improvement, sharing knowledge, spreading information to those individuals that want it versus the information for those individuals that just want to argue against it. Something similar to what we had yesterday, where one of the fans, if I remember correctly, Michael, came onto the show and tried to basically negatively comment against I guess Republican enthusiasts. I'm not exactly sure because this isn't a Republican channel. So I guess because we were talking about business and finance and stuff that's got stuff to do with Donald Trump, that the guy decided to come and say something naysay, negative, kind of sort of about Donald Trump. And I was just like, but like, how are we wrong about what we're saying on the channel today? Because we're not really talking about how good or bad Donald Trump is. We're talking about how what he's done has negatively impacted us financially and is costing us to spend more money across the board. Dude didn't have an answer. I guess he just felt like trolling us for a moment. And then after that, he kind of just faded away, which was fine for us because we were able to wrap things up. And now today we're going to be talking about putting some money in your pocket, saving and investing some money. I actually went and did some digging on those trusts, and I found that there are some pretty instinctive trusts that are pretty thick in the making. And it's good and it's bad because the good side of some of these trusts is that the trust will allow you to do the things that you want to do with keeping your money invisible. The downside is that you got to be making a decent quantity of money to be able to afford to set those kinds of trusts up. So looking at what levels of trust you would have to create, and then looking at how you would have to move your trust around, I'm still trying to navigate because it's not going to be free. Each trust is going to cost you money. You're not going to be able to set it up for free. And I can look into it to see if there is a way, but as far as I know, you can't set up a trust for free. You're going to have to spend some money, as low as $250 to $500 to set up a simple trust, to something as massive as an expensive trust that's like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 plus maintenance fees, annual maintenance fees, where what I'm looking at right now, anywhere between 1% and 3% is the cost of doing business. Now, there's a plus and a minus to every trust that you've got going on there, where you got to see where your money is coming from before like anybody can do, whatever they're going to do to you. But basically what I'm looking at is that you would probably have to have more than one international trust, where one trust ships money to another trust, which ships money to another trust, which ships that money to you before you get your hands on it, and then you don't got to worry about it. This only makes sense if you're making tons of money and the money that you're making is going into that trust as a beneficiary. The trust is a beneficiary of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then the money that the trust is making off of that sends that money somewhere else. What I've noticed so far, what I'm looking at trust, is that even if you get a non-residential trust, one of the things that has to happen with that non-residential trust in some countries, you have to set it up in person, which means you've got to fly to that country on business, set up the trust, pay the cost, have the trust established, then it can be operated abroad. And if you're going to like all of the countries that have a trust, you're spending a decent quantity of capital on each trust. So I'm looking at, well, what kind of trust can you get for the average individual with a startup versus how much that's going to cost versus when you should transition over to a more effective trust. If you have irrevocable trust, once you create it, that's it. If you do a revocable trust, you can upgrade it to something else. But as long as it's a revocable trust, all assets that go into that trust is subject to accessibility from U.S. courts. So you just got to find a way to shift your money into certain places to where the trust ain't going to touch it. Well, the trust can't be touched. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that when you're dealing with those IRS forms where they report cash transactions over $10,000 in a day. It's not a per month thing. It's like a single $10,000 transaction in a day. They report those, but if you're doing like $2,000, $2,500 transactions every day for the month, where it's different amounts every day for the month, then the fact is that it's far enough under $10,000 and it's not being reported. But if you're moving around like $5,000 or so less every day, that means that you're moving around something close to $50,000 every 10 days, which is something close to $150,000 a month, which means that you could essentially move $1 million in small daily increments to a different location inside of a year. And nobody would even pay attention to the money being relocated. Once it's relocated and then invested, then it is what it is. You also have the recognition and understanding that any transaction, like if you put it onto one of those fintech situations and they deposit it into a bank account, some of those fintech companies want to put it into a bank account that you control, but then you can move that money to a situation that another entity controls, and then from there you could just start moving it, and then by the time it gets to the trust, it's lost in the system. The paper trail disappears because once it leaves the U.S., like the U.S. ain't tracking it. So I thought that was pretty impressive, and I'm going to try to get the ins and outs of that so that we can start discussing some of these things, because you hear these folks talk about, oh, you can do this, this, and this, and if you want to know more about it, come and ask me, call this number, click trust in the text, and this, that, and the third, and and we'll set you up. Now, when I do the research on it, it's like $20,000 to $30,000 to set something like that up. I'm like, wait, hold on. Yeah, it's the most protected trust that they got out there, but the average individual don't have 20 grand to invest in stocks, much less 20 grand to pay for the trust to be set up, to say that you got $250,000 worth of assets that can be controlled by the trust, that can be owned by the trust and controlled by you. So that's crazy. So I'm like, well, we're going to figure this out. And once I get down to the bottom of it, I'm going to help you guys, the average individual, figure out how you're going to start putting your money in safe places, start putting your assets in safe places, and then start to invest in the trust that you're creating, and then work your way into the big scale ones. Now, you're going to want to figure things out on certain areas, because certain ones are going to cost certain amounts, and if you can't afford it, if it's not in line with your budget, you're not doing those kinds of profits, you're just going to have to deal with being transparent. But if you can afford to be invisible, if you can afford to be off the grid, let's get you off the grid. Let's get you enough revenue where you don't have to worry about where your money's coming from. That's the whole purpose of this, the whole goal behind this. So I just realized that we ain't got nothing going on for the rest of the day, so we can kick it for a little bit. So I'm waiting on you guys to pop in. I got Usman, who's supposed to be coming in and getting his answers, because I got more information for Usman about that weight training question that he asked me the other day. So I wasn't wrong about it when I gave him the information, but I've got more detailed information for him on that topic to kind of help Usman with his ability to understand the question, because he was asking me about hypertrophy and superior exercise methods for hypertrophy. And I was spot on with it, but with the information that I have right now, I can be more detailed about it until you guys roll in, because we got a pretty short show now that I think about it, with the quantity of information that I've got today versus the question. It's like a pretty concise topic of discussion. So with the 40 pages worth of information that I've got, outside of some side topics, we might have about an hour's worth of discussion to talk about today. Now, what I can tell you is that tomorrow we're supposed to be talking about chili. I'm going to try to find the ins and outs of chili. Tomorrow night, Thursday morning, I have a deadlock of like 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I got to get the show done by that time. But that's still like a 4-hour show for from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. That's still like a 4 or 5 hour show. I still have plenty of time to walk through a deep dissertation talking about chili, and then answering the questions about real estate and other such that Usman had questions about from the other show. Now, I am going to redirect the attention to the Dubai segment. So if there's any information that was in the Dubai segment, I will not include that in the follow-up for Dubai. But any new information about investing in Dubai's real estate, which companies to work with in Dubai who might fly you out there and show you around and give you ample opportunities to invest, that those are the situations where, I'm going to show you about that stuff, because that kind of gives you the red light treatment. You're flying on business. They're probably going to cover the cost of the plane. They're going to, cover the cost of your hotel stay, because when you go over there, you're intending on buying something. So I'm pretty sure that the guarantee buy mentality is that I'm going to go to Dubai. I'm going to buy real estate. I'm going to have 200 grand with me. So they're going to get me a plane that I don't have to pay for, put me into a hotel that I don't have to pay for. And then all I have to do is give them 200 grand for a property. Bet. Because it seems like I found a company that might not just be a property management firm. It might also be a real estate investment firm that is also a property management firm, which means that you can buy the property, have the ownership of the property, and get residuals from the property and not have to do nothing but put your money down on that property. Now, investing in that property means that you're going to be drawing revenue from that particular country. And you've got to note, like we were talking earlier about these trusts, how your LLC or your C corporation is going to be obligated to compensate taxation from Dubai, but then you're going to have to report any capital gains from Dubai to the US when you are reporting your taxes in the US. And then if you take the profits off of that and throw it into a trust, especially if that trust is not in Dubai, then any Schedule Ks that you got to pay for or whatever the form is in Dubai to show that the money got transferred somewhere else, so you actually didn't acquire a profit, that has to get done. And then so the more stuff that you do, the more paperwork you got to fill out, and that's going to make things stressful for you, which means that you're going to have to start paying other people to get in there and take care of it for you, so that you don't have so much stuff to do. Because this isn't a situation where the goal is to have a bunch of paperwork that you're doing all day, every day to make sure that your money's right. The goal is to set the situation up where the contracts and documents are so detailed to where somebody else will do this for you. They will take their cut for making sure that it happens, and you will get your money, which is the cost of doing business. And their expenses is going to be the tax write-off. And if you're operating this out of any country that is not taxing, then that means that the money goes into the trust. And then after it goes into the trust, it goes into your pocket, and you ain't got to worry about nothing. You can follow the trust. You can follow the assets of the account in the trust based on your ability to maintain the situation. But at the same time, the trust has its own way of doing things. And outside of you as a grantor making certain amendments, such as adding new assets, retracting beneficiaries, and the process and procedure that the contract is designed to make that happen, that's going to be something that you're going to have to work out with the person that's setting up your trust. But you got to have enough money to make it worth your while to build a trust. First, we want to build your assets up so that you have enough money to pay your bills and not have to work. Then we're going to work our way into getting you into something where you got to trust, because if you don't have any assets and you're living from paycheck to paycheck, don't matter what you got going on, because you just barely making enough to get by. So since that's the case, you don't need to waste no time on no trust. You just need to make sure that you got insurance on whatever it is that you're using, so that if the situation goes south, you got some coverage. So meantime, since we took care of a little bit of time talking about that, I want you guys to join me on an exciting journey as I tackle the challenges of finding the smartest way to grow money. So let's see if we can turn a small investment into something extraordinary. When it comes to building wealth, we've heard the saying, time is money. But what if I told you that it's not just about time? It's about making informed, strategic decisions about where to invest your money from the very beginning. Look. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen. In a row, Mr. Satellite making his debut for this and that.
My standards are no suggestion, they're automatic. No compromising, no time for the average day. Elevating myself, that's my only aim. This is the elevation protocol. Rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law.
We got him coming in with his own theme music now. If you put intro music, I'm breakdancing on the floor. He's breakdancing on the roof too. Oh my goodness. So we just started touching into the topic, Mr. Satellite. We just finished talking into the topic today. We were discussing the brokerage question that Z had asked us about last week, Thursday. And I actually went and did some digging, and not only did I find some brokerages and broker style scenarios, not only locally in the United States, but also worldwide, international brokers and brokerages that can be utilized for investment opportunities. So since we're just talking about the brokers themselves, outside of identifying the difference between a broker and a brokerage, me identifying who they are and you know what's up with them is probably the most effective thing that I could do for you guys. So I figured, well, yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about brokerages, because and it's a seemingly short topic, but it's still a topic that you guys can benefit from, because you now know where you can source a entity with financial knowledge the way this and that carries financial knowledge, so that you guys can automate your ability to invest by giving your money to somebody else and letting them do all the investments. That gives you the ability to be financially successful without putting in the work. That is the ideology of passive income, is that you've passed money on to somebody else. They've made money for you and they've passed the money back, money that has passed through you into somebody else's account without you putting any effort into it. That is passive. It is not something that you have to put effort into. I tell you guys all the time, people use the term passive income, but they're grossly mistaken, because it is not passive income. It is residual income. Because if you had to put 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 10 years into making that money, and now the money is still coming after you stop putting in the effort to set it up, that is residual income, not passive. Passive income is income that you never had to do anything for. Short, moving your money from the left hand to the right hand in order for it to make a profit, that's like the most effort. If you've got to put in a certain number of hours, a certain number of days, a certain number of weeks, over a certain number of years to set it up, that is called putting in work. And the fruits of our labor is residual income from that work. You have the type of scenarios where people pay you in advance to do the work. You have the type of individuals that they pay you along the way for the work, and you have situations where you put in the work first and then you get paid for what you did after the fact. You have back-end deals that continue to pay you for the remainder of your existence, and sometimes can be inherited off to your lineage for work you did in the past, but you put in work at some point and you're still getting paid off of that work. Like the actors, when they create a movie and they take a back-end deal where they get less up front, but they get more money as long as the movie is in existence and being sold and watched and viewed and other such, they can still get a $10,000, $20,000, $70,000 check from a movie they did 30 years ago, when they're not even working on that movie anymore, because that is the residual royalties from past work. That's not passive income. Big difference. So I always try to rub that in a little bit before we move forward. But when we move forward, we start talking about some of the things that we can do about getting our money up there. Now, one of the biggest hurdles in growing your wealth is navigating the unpredictable nature of the market. It's like riding a roller coaster. You never know what twists and turns lie ahead. Even with thorough research, there's always that lingering fear of making the wrong move and losing everything. Another common challenge is the overwhelming complexity of investing. With all the jargon on technical terms flying around, it can feel like trying to learn a new language is easy to get discouraged and stick to familiar territory. Nevertheless, doing so often means missing out on greater opportunities. Let's be honest, some people are naturally risk adverse, and that's perfectly okay. Risk adverse means individuals that are against taking risks, individuals that would prefer to play it safe. I had a buddy of mine that doesn't take any risks. He has no problem with riding my coattails when I take a risk so that when I'm successful, he can benefit from my success. But I have a buddy that will not take a risk where the ability to take a loss comes about. And then he has the false sense of perception that he's overly successful or reasonably successful without ever putting any effort into taking a risk to be better. Now, over time, he's noticed that lack of risk taking doesn't provide him with extra stability. The lack of risk taking does not give him a heightened sense of financial security because he's had to change 4 jobs in the past 2 years. So he's always trying to find another way to make ends meet because, without the risk that I told him about doing before, there is no reward. And when the ball drops, when you've got all your eggs in one basket and that basket breaks, you got no eggs. So playing it safe is often a result of mediocre returns that barely keeps up with inflation, which ultimately puts you in a position of taking a financial loss. Now, the key is finding a balance between risk and reward, because with the right strategy, growing your money is absolutely possible. So where should you start? Let's explore some proven investment options that can definitely get you guys where you want to be. Now, some of these options we have talked about in other shows, such as stocks. If you guys are investing in stocks, this can be a powerful way to grow wealth over time. When you own shares in a company, you're essentially owning a piece of its success. While risks are inevitable, building a diversified portfolio and understanding market trends can help mitigate them. We just finished talking about yesterday how real estate is impacted by the tariffs. And I told you guys about how the market has shifted with the real estate investment trust. Real estate often offers tangible opportunities for growth, whether through rental income or property flipping. I encourage a lot more rental properties than property flipping. And one of the things that I've come to understand is that in certain countries, like in Japan, where the property real estate depreciates over time, so the value of the property is zero after a certain period of time, after I think like 25 or 30 years. And once you get to that point, the only value that you're getting from the property is the tenants that live on the property. So we encourage for you to buy and hold and rent, because if you buy, fix, and flip, sometimes the value of the property is less than the cost of repairs, and that ultimately becomes a non-fruitful engagement. But if you're doing international business in real estate, where the profits that you're making in America is offset by the expenses that you're paying in Japan, where you're getting tax deductions from American taxation off of the cost to develop a property in another country, where you're saved, it's a tax blanket. It's not a loss to build up a property that nobody else wants and then rent it out to somebody who can utilize it. And then if you're able to show in low population zones in countries that have development incentives for low population zones, low income housing developments, and you're developing or redeveloping properties in those areas, you're either going to receive tax breaks or some type of grant or some type of loan assistance program where those countries will support your ability to make a financially deductible investment in their country, because it's going to save you taxes in America and it's going to be easier for you to expand in their country. Now, while it requires significant upfront capital and it isn't always liquid, it remains one of the most popular investment choices for long-term wealth creation. Now, mutual funds, these are like ready-made portfolios that bundle together various investments, reducing risk through predetermined diversification. Nevertheless, watch out for those hidden fees, because as I've told you guys before, they can eat into your returns if you're not careful, which is why we were looking into those trusts, because you have the irrevocable non-grantor thrift spending trust, but it cost almost 30 grand if you to set it up, and then 1 to 3% to run it. If you don't have 100 grand, it's not worth it. And I'm talking about not just like 100 grand income. I'm talking about like 100 grand sitting on the side. It's not worth it setting up something like that, because it'll take 20 to 30 grand to set it up. You'll only have 70 grand left over. And out of that 70 grand, they're going to be taking 1 to 3% out of the 70 grand. You would have to put money somewhere, have it make money for you, where you have an extra 100, 200 grand that you're putting into the trust account, where the trust account will now be able to take that 1 to 3% out of the trust account, where the trust can now send you money after you have redirected your profits to the trust. That's the difference. That's the difference. So as I told you guys before, we wanted to cover some of the brokers or brokerages that I think would be pretty good for you guys to utilize for these types of investments. Now, there's also Bitcoin. So never forget that there's also cryptocurrencies that you guys can invest in order to make yourselves more fiscally successful. And even with cryptocurrencies, there are brokers out there that would potentially handle your portfolio. Now, the top online brokers to consider in the US, if you're going to be using one, is Fidelity Investments, because they're consistently ranked as the best overall broker with lower fees and commission-free stocks and ETF trades, with excellent research tools and customer support. They have a high interest on uninvested cash. Now, some of these brokers are also going to be fintech, which is financial technology, where you have apps and other such that you can kind of autopilot this stuff for yourself on your cell phone or your laptop. The same way Acorn and Stash App are all doing the same thing. There are some of these can be in line with that. But if you're talking about a fully automated, like give them your money and let them make money for you, these are some of the countries, some of the products that can make that happen. Charles Schwab, they're great for beginners and advanced traders alike, with multiple trading platforms, including mobile phone apps. They have a strong customer service and educational resources, which aid you with your ability to transfer funds. And then they have a wide range of investment options. Now, 3, there's an interactive broker, which is best for advanced and active traders with low margin rates and fast trade execution, international trading capabilities, and powerful trading platforms and tools. Number 4 is going to be E-Trade. They have a strong mobile trading platform, which is good for option trading, and a robust research and educational offering. Number 5 is Morel Edge. They have a solid all-around broker with good research tools. Their integration with Bank of America accounts is also a benefit for those individuals who still have possession of a Bank of America account. Now, Vanguard is another one that we're going to talk about real quick, but I just seen somebody pop in. So, like satellite, we're gonna do this for all of y'all coming up in here. We got repeating from yesterday. We've got Bayside diving in with his intro. Special shout out to Bayside. Diving into our fintech conversation, we're going to be talking about brokerage information. How you doing today, Bayside? Gotta be motivated. Good to hear about it. Now, since you just stepped in, I went over the first six. So I want to go back over them real quick for you. When we were talking about some of the brokers that are utilizable in the United States. So I mentioned to you guys Fidelity Investments. I also mentioned Charles Schwab, Interactive Brokers. That's their name. E-Trade and Merrill Edge as some of the places that you can go to utilize brokerage platforms and companies that will help you move your money around so that you can invest in stuff that can put some money into your pocket, put extra money into your pocket with little or no effort. Now, as you strolled in, we started talking about Vanguard. Now, Vanguard is ideal for long-term passive investing strategies, where their offers are for some of the lowest cost index funds and ETFs, which is good for individuals that are hard up, because if they're cheaper to invest in, you can buy more for less. And then when they give you the dividends per share distribution, you can receive a larger quantity of distributions because you have a larger quantity of shares. Because the difference between 12 cents a share for $8 versus 24 cents a share for $24 is that you can buy 3 shares of the former and get 36 cents versus the 1 share that you end up with 24 cents. So when you're thinking about the quantity of shares that you can buy, you're actually more excited about the dividends distributions because you're actually going to get more back when dividends are dispersed. Now you have options for managed portfolios through Vanguard with Vanguard's personal advisory services. And a lot of these are also fintech related, which is financial technology that apps and stuff that you can download onto your Android or your iPhone or your laptop in some situations, and potentially utilize AI technology to help you with your trades, making it easier for you to buy, sell, and flip stock options with less knowledge than the average Wall Street broker. Now, these brokers and brokerages stand out for their low fees, diverse investment options, quality research, and analysis tools, and they also have strong customer service. So your choices on your specific needs, trading frequencies, and investment goals can be fine-tuned to the specific brokers that you are potentially putting yourself in business with. Now, I also understand that because here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we have more individuals that are coming to the show from all over the world. I have to give you guys the best brokers and brokerages worldwide that can be used in multiple countries. And this is going to give you guys the ability to contact these companies or download their app and start figuring out ways to upload your money and start making trades as you have extra capital to do so. Now, we've already talked about active brokers. They're still ranked worldwide as one of the highest ones for global markets with a wide range of assets. They also have continuing advanced trading platforms and tools with large margin rates and competitive pricing. eToro, which I don't believe I've mentioned yet today. No, because I mentioned E-Trade earlier. So eToro is going to be an international one. And this one is innovative social trading platforms, which is a little bit different. Social trading platforms is when you're trading amongst your peers, almost like Second Life, if y'all remember that game, which is a lot different from trading, buying and selling shares of a company and trading company shares across other companies. So it's a different style, a different design. It's available in many countries worldwide. It offers stocks, cryptocurrencies, and other assets, which is beneficial for you if you're the type of person to diversify into crypto, because there are a lot of platforms that are exclusive as opposed to platforms that are more diverse. So when I told you guys about utilizing Pionex to to use trade bots for flipping your capital to make more money for you, that platform is exclusively beneficial for bot trading with cryptocurrency. Doesn't mean you can't download a Pionex for something else. Specifically, Pionex for cryptocurrency is going to be using trade bots to help you flip money on the stock market for crypto. Now, other platforms have the ability to buy and sell regular stock options and not necessarily give you accessibility to cryptocurrency, but you also have stocks, bonds, and ETFs that can allow you to buy into certain things that your company can benefit from. Now, they also have a strong emphasis on education and community engagement, with their ability to make sure that the people utilizing their services and their platforms and stuff are more knowledgeable as they continue to make trades. XM is another company that caters to traders in multiple countries, where they're offering MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5 platforms, which, as we've discussed in previous episodes, have been determined to be one of the better AI platforms for trading in 2025. They have competitive spreads and diverse account types, which also contributes to strong educational resources as well as pretty adequate customer service. Another one we have is FP Markets, which provides access to global markets, offers a direct market access model to certain investments. Like Usman was asking me to get into one of the Indian trade companies. He couldn't do direct connect. He had to utilize third party. This is one of those platforms where they have direct connect to the company, and you just have to connect with them and invest in the company from there. It gives you competitive spreads as well as diverse asset selections. And because they're available in many countries, it gives you the ability to spread your wealth across multiple countries. Now, there's a place called Swissquote, which is a Swiss-based broker with a global presence that offers a wide range of financial services and assets with strong regulatory compliances and security measures. It caters to both novice and experienced traders worldwide. Now, these brokers and brokerages outstand their international availability and definitely provides a significant diverse asset offering with competitive pricing and robust trading platforms. Nonetheless, it's important to note that availability and specific features may vary by country due to legal regulations as well as membership fee requirements. Now, the main differences between a broker and a brokerage are individually versus company. A broker is an individual professional who facilitates transactions between buyers and sellers, while a brokerage is a firm or company that employs multiple brokers. The scope of service is going to be a little bit different between both of these, because brokers typically specialize in a specific field or type of transaction, such as a real estate investment broker. You have brokers that'll broker the initial escrow account, or anything that's related to real estate. They'll have an individual, like surveyors. That's supposed to be like an all-around job, but they have micro organized the position where you can have a broker with a specialty versus somebody who's all around going to just take your money and make you rich. And you have stock option brokers versus real estate brokers. Your Wall Street brokers are more like stock option brokers, which is different than real estate brokers. And brokerages offer a wider range of services, including the research, training, marketing, and compliance support. Resources and support from brokerages that provide the infrastructure, tools, and resources that individual brokers use to conduct their business, that will be provided to you as well. And brokers also often required to work under the supervision of a brokerage firm, depending on their license. Now, brokerages operate under industry regulations, but are not directly supervised in the same way, where the scale of the operation matters, because a broker works with individual clients or small groups, while a brokerage can handle a much larger volume of transactions and clients through its team of brokers. Now, one of the things you're going to find that's nifty about this is the expertise of brokers versus brokerages. A small broker typically specializes in the one niche, whereas a brokerage firm may have multiple brokers with expertise in various areas. This gives you the ability to hand your money over to the company brokerage, and then the employees of brokerage will take portions of your money and invest it in a bunch of different places instead of being limited to just one. So what's the ultimate strategy for maximizing growth? Based on expert insight and current trends coming, dividend-paying stocks with real estate investment trusts could be a game changer, as I mentioned to you guys 2 months ago. Dividend-paying stocks reward you with regular cash payouts, while REITs allow you to benefit from real estate income without directly owning the property. But here's the reality. Even the best strategies come with no guarantees. Markets are inherently unpredictable, and risks are part of the game. However, with the right mindset, continuous learning, and smart decision making, you can significantly increase your chances of success. Now, this actually plays to the tune of what I do for the show every day, every week. Because since I'm doing research every day, and I'm covering financial research information at least 3 times a week, I continue to educate myself on more and more information and more knowledge that I can then use critical thinking to reassess my scenario and find a more effective way to achieve the objective that I'm trying to achieve. Now, granted, there are going to be some hurdles, but as the hurdles arise, I can find ways to navigate around or over those hurdles and still be able to make it to my goal without taking a loss or taking too many losses that can't be recouped. You have to remember, building wealth isn't about chasing quick wins. It's about creating sustainable growth over time. By making thoughtful investment choices today, you'll be setting yourself up for financial freedom tomorrow. So, one of the things that we had to cover today, I wanted to cover this with Usman, but Usman didn't pop in yet. Usman asked me the other day about the hypertrophy between multi-rep and single rep, and he wanted to know if that was going to be which one would be beneficial, because he just heard the rumor and he had to ask me a random question. Now, based on the information that I was able to get from multi-set training versus single set training, when it comes to superiority and hypertrophy. And this is going to be addressing strength gains in muscles. You want to understand that there isn't much of a difference between the two. However, with multi-step training, 3 to 5 sets produces superior results in maximum strength and muscle growth compared to single set training. A meta-analysis found that multiple sets are associated to 40% greater hypertrophy related to effects that includes the size that a single set in both trained and untrained subjects can produce. So it's like 40% more than single set individuals. For strength gains, 2 to 3 sets per exercise are associated with 46% greater strength gains than one set across both trained and untrained individuals. Now, there is a trend showing increased effects, and these increasing effects are in size for an increasing number of sets in terms of muscle hypertrophy. So you have like 24% for one set, 34% for 2 to 3 sets, 44% for 4 to 6 sets. However, it's important to note that single set training can still be effective, especially for sedentary individuals starting a workout routine, people with limited time for exercise, and maintaining muscle mass and strength. A recent study found that even single set training can lead to significant muscular adaptations, including hypertrophy. So for rehabilitation exercises, a general guideline is to use 1 to 2 sets of 10 or 20 or up to 20. And that's pretty much the maximum quantity of repetitions that you're going to be putting yourselves into. Now, this indicates that single set training can be effective for rehab purposes. Nevertheless, the group training to failure showed slightly greater hypertrophy compared to those training with 2 reps in reserve. While multiple set training shows superior results, the difference may not be dramatic enough to outweigh the time-saving benefits and single set training can give to an individual. While single set training can still be effective, especially for time-constrained individuals or beginners, the evidence suggests that if you're looking for the maximum muscle size and maximum hypertrophy, multi-step training generally is going to be superior for your outcome. So if you're looking for the most results in the least amount of time, recognizing the extra effort that you guys are going to put into making that happen, that is going to be the only difference between all day in the gym versus like 30 minutes a day, every day of the week kind of situation. So to answer his question, yeah, it could go either way. It just really depends on what your goals are versus what kind of effort that you're going to be putting into your workout. Push-ups, burpees, bar work, aka pull-ups, equal fitness. Now you can do incline, you can do gravity workouts where you're using your own body weight. You don't necessarily need bench presses or free weights. You can use resistant bands to help you out with getting that stuff together. You can also with pull-up bars, you can buy portable pull-up bars from like Walmart or something like that, and you can do some of the stuff from the house. They have on Temu, you can go and get yourself weights from Temu for like $10, where they've got like up to 65, 70 pound weights where you can just keep adding weights onto the set. And for those people that are trying to go for broke, you could probably buy 2 or 3 sets and have like 13 or 14 of the 10-pound weights added on both sides. just change the way you do it. And you can do like the curl machines. They got all kinds of stuff where you can literally work out at the house, save money on a gym membership because you've got all the gym equipment in your closet between resistance bands, pull-up bars, and all this other stuff where you could keep yourself reasonably fit. Now, this isn't going to give you a Hulk Hogan or Arnold Schwarzenegger body style, but it could definitely keep you about as toned up as Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee. So, any kind of exercise is good. I mean, if you're thinking about cardio workouts, if you live on a multi-story platform or complex, take the stairs instead of the elevator. That's cardio by itself. If you've got short distance commutes and you've got a lot of time, walk there instead of drive there. Use public transportation instead of driving there. And that'll give you the ability to build up your physique without having to put a lot of effort into sitting specifically at the gym, working yourself out. So I thought that was good to throw in so that I could go ahead and give Usman his response, but Usman didn't dive in today. When it came down to the brokerages, since we covered most of this information about buying and selling and investing in things, we covered a lot of the information, and without giving you repetitive information on a regular basis, I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to have a lot for you. But what I can tell you real quick, since I still got y'all here, is that I found some stuff about the offshore assets. And I wanted you guys to hear about this real quick because I haven't gotten to the bottom of how to set these things up and where to set these things up 100% of the way where you got like a one-stop shop. It's probably going to be a multi-tier trust setup that you're going to get to reach the goals of what other individuals are talking about. You're probably going to have your startup trust that you're going to utilize to build your wealth. And then you're going to be building bigger trust along the way as you build up wealth and assets and resources. But it's one of those things where you've got to start somewhere. So in order to know where to start, you got to know where you want to end up, how much it costs to get there, or what's the ballpark figure, what it might look like. So I figure, well, I might as well go ahead and share that information with you guys since I do have we're talking about finance today. We're talking about investing and stuff. Let me make sure that I give y'all some information that y'all can walk away with outside of all of the many brokerages that I just told you guys about. So what I've discovered so far today while I was dealing with today's show about brokerages is that the most robust structure for asset protection, specifically from U.S. litigations and tax audits, would be the irrevocable non-grantor spendthrift offshore non-residential asset protection living trust, which is established in a tax-free jurisdiction. Whoa. Now, that's going to be long. They don't give it to you that long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this where y'all can see what I'm talking about, and y'all are going to be like, oh my God, Becky, this is what we're talking about. We are talking about specifically for your benefit. We're talking about the ability to put your money somewhere where you don't have to worry about the long-term negative side effects of it. You're looking at the irrevocable non-grantor spendthrift offshore non-residential asset protection living trust established in a tax-free jurisdiction. If that ain't a tongue tie, I don't know what is. But I wanted to put that up there for you because I wanted you guys to know exactly what we're talking about today. Now, some of the jurisdictions that are good for you guys to do this would be Cook's Island, which is not in America, Navies, either St. Kitty and Navies. You can do both of them, and Belize are the three ones that are told. So St. Kitts and Naviv. These are the jurisdictions that offer some pretty good advantages. Now, Cook's Island is pioneered for its robust asset protection laws, and it has a short statute of limitations of 1 to 2 years. It does not recognize foreign judgments, and no personal income, capital gains, or inheritance taxes. So that's a good country to do it in, because if you set up a life insurance policy and you make the trust a beneficiary of the life insurance policy, you have to recognize that the life insurance policy is supposed to be taxed from probate. But if it hits a account in a country that doesn't tax that, you don't got to worry about it. Naviz is particularly impenetrable with trust laws and does not recognize foreign judgments either. It also has a 1 to 2 year statute of limitations with no personal taxes on foreign sourced income. So while Cooks has no income tax, no capital gains tax, or inherent tax, even if you're making money in their country, Naviz specifically has no taxes on foreign sourced income. So if you're making money in the US and you're transitioning the money to the trust in Naviz, that's a foreign source, which means that it's not going to be taxed, which means that if Naviz sends you sends the beneficiary revenue, it's non-taxable income. Belize does not recognize foreign judgments either, and there's a lower setup and maintenance cost compared to other jurisdictions where Belize has no capital gains and only taxes locally sourced income. So again, if it is offshore income and when you send it to Belize, it's not turning a profit, that's when you're able to make money for you. Now, some of the key features to some of these trust structures is that the irrevocable portion of it is permanently removing assets from the grantor's estate, enhancing creditor protection. So nobody can sue you. It can't get taken in bankruptcy court. Nobody can run off with your assets at all. Non-grantors requires the trust to file its own tax returns and pay taxes at trust rates, avoiding grantor level taxation. Now, some of the better parts about this is that any taxable income would only be taxed on the trust if the trust is in a taxable jurisdiction. So if the trust just got money and the trust is in a non-taxable jurisdiction, the trust doesn't pay taxes. It files whatever 1040 style tax form in its local country with respects to its taxation situation. Now, the spendthrift is a scenario that restricts beneficiaries' access to funds and blocks most creditor claims. Now, this is a complex scenario because while it is going to prevent certain beneficiaries from having free access to the full totality of the funds, the fact is that creditors can't come and put a lien on your assets or your income from that particular scenario as readily because you're not really controlling that as an income. It just happens. And then if you're doing this with an offshore situation, you're operating under favorable foreign laws, creating legal barriers from your U.S. creditors. And if it's a non-residential situation, it is established outside the U.S. to maximize jurisdictional advantages where you don't have to live there to create this trust. But when you create this trust, you will benefit from this trust. Now, the implementation considerations for some of these, were, like I told you guys earlier today, somewhere between 25,000 and 100,000 or more for some of these trusts, the complex variations of these. So you've got to have a decent quantity of cash that needs to be protected in order to build one of these things. And if you're planning on building more than one of these things, you need to have a significant quantity of capital out there to have your money making money for you. And that's why I told you guys earlier in the show that I was going to be looking into more cost-effective trust styles that we could set up as we build our generational wealth, where we can then add our new trust as a trustee of the current trust, where we would get it and then send it over there, do a Schedule K, and then the irrevocable trust can do all of this fantastic stuff that before it sends it to us as a beneficiary, so that we're still in a scenario where we're not necessarily having to pay taxes on it. But in the forefront, when you first start out, you're probably going to get got with a little bit of taxes, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it. Whether or not you report it is up to you. IRS has 10 years to come after you for it, if they do. But if they don't, typically if you don't got enough money to go around and nobody's saying anything, you don't got enough money to go around. Now, annual maintenance fees, typically between 1% and 3% of the trust assets, is something that happens. And you got to look at the cost of that 1% to 3% trust fee versus the evasion of taxes that you're no longer bound to, and treat it as a cost of doing business. Now, this is going to require careful structuring to avoid grantor trust triggers. But as long as you set it up correctly with a trust agent that knows what they're doing with this, you're going to be pretty much covered, which is part of the reasons why you're spending so much money on creating this trust. Now, you must establish, before any feasible litigation occurs or credit claims occurs, you must establish this thing in advance. And you must have it established so far in advance because certain countries will prorate or backdate the situation depending on the circumstances of the litigation. Now, you're going to use licensed offshore trustees to maintain the jurisdictional compliance, because if you use licensed offshore trustees, you are not necessarily affiliated with the situation outside of being a beneficiary. You want to appoint a distribution committee with non-U.S. members to insulate the grantor from control accusations. That's going to be the critical portion of things. Because if you have a grantor contract that's set up, or not a grantor contract, a trust contract that's set up where the beneficiaries are guaranteed to receive a certain quantity of capital, hands down, and there is no if, ands, or buts about it, and you're supposed to have individuals that are supposed to be operating this shit on your behalf, you've got to make sure that what you put together is clearly not going to be corrupted by the committee that you assign to run the trust. As long as you are not a grantor operating the trust, you're less likely to have control accusations that allows them to breach the trust documents and seize assets or freeze assets to some magnitude. Now, while the structure offers significant protection, it's important to note that it cannot shield against all federal tax liens or legitimate child support court orders, depending upon how much accessibility you've got into the U.S. Now, also, offshore trusts face increased IRS scrutiny, which requires meticulous compliance with U.S. reporting requirements, if in the event that you are in one of those countries that has a tax IRS reporting scenario. Now, this type of trust is best suited for the high net worth individual seeking maximum asset protection and tax efficiencies, particularly those that are litigation prone for professions or with complex international portfolios. So if you're going to be one of those individuals that are going to follow my lead and start investing all over the world, this would be a good place to redirect all of your assets and then give yourself a single streamline of income directly to your personal self, where you can live life the way you need to live life. And that's the cost of doing business. Now, we did a little bit more searching on this information, and tried to see if we could find some that could avoid tax audits and child support litigations and other such scenarios from U.S. Jurisdiction. We still ended up with the same three, Cooks, Naviv, and Belize, because they specifically do not recognize judgments from out of their country. But let's see. It is not automatic information exchange with the U.S. And it is important to note that U.S. persons, the individual, not the trust, are still required to report foreign trusts and accounts to your IRS. And you have to remember that there's proper legal guidance that is essential to navigate the complex interplay between offshore asset protection and U.S. tax compliance. Now, one of the things you could do is set up offshore everything and then only utilize banks that are not in America where they're not actually able to chase the rabbit and find your trust. You still got to deal with the complications of if somebody finds out that you've got offshore stuff. But until you start snitching on yourself and telling them you got offshore stuff, you're probably not going to have a lot of people that's going to find, because your private trusts are going to be off the books. Now, you have to understand that you're going to have to look at the cost of establishing and maintaining offshore trusts and determine if it is outweighing the benefits, because the typical value for the minimum quantity of investment in a trust is usually around $250,000. Therefore, there are alternative asset protection strategies that may be more suitable for lower net individuals. You have domestic asset protection trusts in the United States with favorable laws. You have limited liability companies for business owners that you can then put into domestic asset protection trusts. That is also beneficial for you. You can do maximizing contributions to protect retirement accounts, where you are throwing a whole bunch of money into a different account that will exempt you from taxes to some magnitudes. And then if you increase liability insurance coverages, that will also reduce your ability to you lose some of the assets that you have access to. Now, regardless of the chosen strategy, it's crucial to consult with an experienced attorney to navigate the complex legal and tax implications of asset protection structures. Because depending on which one you're going to use, Cook's Island pioneers in asset protection with short statutes of limitations and does not recognize the foreign jurisdictions with all of the other tax exemptions. Naviz implements favorable trust laws and does not recognize the foreign judgments either, with the same short statutes of limitations with no taxes. And Belize also does not recognize foreign judgments and has even lower costs than the other two countries, with no taxes on capital gains and only dealing with taxes in the current country that you're doing the business in. Now, let's see. I still have to get some more information for us to walk through a more affordable trust style that's somewhere between $250,000 and $10,000, so that we can find cheaper ways to build a trust and what kind of trust we can build. But this is the type of do it all at once kind of trust that'll put you in a position where you guys don't have to worry about your money going anywhere or losing any of your assets in a divorce. That's also going to require you to have a shit ton of bank accounts and a shit ton of places and move your money to another place before you allow your wife to touch your money. But if you get one of those women from the Philippines where they're trying to save you money so that they can buy food, you ain't got no problems. You just got to figure that situation out. Beyond that, if you guys have any information on brokers that you would like to share, any of your own experiences, tips for growing your money in any country, any kind of a legal fashion, make sure that you guys take the opportunity to put your investment strategies and legal processes in the comments. And don't forget to check out what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to be talking about Chile and a little bit of Dubai, so that we can cover all of the ways that we can make money for us in Chile, and more detailed ways for us to make money for us in Dubai. As we're doing that countdown to TikTok, we understand that it's probably gonna happen. It just might not happen by the deadline, and that's a strong possibility that TikTok might go off the air by that time. Beijing is making things hard, even though China has made things less difficult. So we're just waiting on Beijing to crack the ice, and once that happens, we'll see ourselves in a more TikTok friendly environment. Until that happens, we're probably going to have to deal with not having, and there's not much that we can do about that. But once it does happen, I'm going to find the NASDAQ share information for it, so that you guys can invest in TikTok and get your own piece of the pie, and potentially be able to benefit from being a partial shareholder of TikTok, and continue to utilize your platform the way you're utilizing your platform. As a side note, if you guys remember Fresh and Fit, Myron reached out to us from Fresh and Fit. So special shout out to him. I'm going to see what he's got to say. I was not expecting him to give me a shout, so I'm eager to see what his communication is going to be about. Now, I think he has been on back on YouTube lately, but he hasn't been on as much because, you know, YouTube doesn't allow him to do the way he does what he does. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated as to how that works. Jordan I don't think that Jordan is going to follow through. I think that the intimidation of an hour-long podcast or 2-hour-long podcast was not in line with his willfulness. So because he does do a good job of creating a 1 to 3 minute scenario to kind of let you know what's going on, but for him to sit on the show and just talk about 30 minutes worth of stuff, he'd have to do like 10 days worth of research and do it on this show in one day. And we could bounce back and forward on some similar topics, but he would literally have to do like 2 weeks worth of research and come onto the show so that we can have one show. And knowing that, you know, I'm not even going to put the pressure on him. I just let him know that, you know, if he changes his mind and he decides that he wants to get into it, because he said, let me think about it. And when women say, let me think about it, that means no. Jordan's not a woman, Jordan's a man. But I'm saying from the concept of when a woman says, I'll think about it, that means no. So when this guy says, let me think about it, I'm like, all right, well, I feel like he ain't going to do it. So, you know, I ain't going to pressure him. I left it out there as that's a good idea. And he might appreciate the compliment, but he might not be really interested in getting in there and getting it done. So I respect that. I have no problem with bringing folks onto the show. Whenever we have individuals that want to come onto the show, we're going to go ahead and give them that opportunity, give them their 15 minutes of fame and make it do what it do. I have a couple of affiliate contracts that I'm going to be filling out. There's going to be some brands that wants me to promote their stuff. So you're going to be seeing some new things on the show coming soon. Name dropping for everybody under the sun. So I'm going to be looking into that tonight as well as the rest of the week. And we're going to see what we can accomplish and how many people we can put on the map. So it's going to be a little bit of a time constraint, but we're going to make it do what it do. with that being said, I want to give a special shout out to Red Void, Omni81, Liberty Twitcher. Special shout out to Twitch and Twitter X. Make sure that you guys remember that we're live 7 nights a week. I know today is a little bit shorter than most days. I think all this week we've been doing like 2 to 3 hour shows, but today we're going to wrap it up a little bit short. We've got a lot of extra things that we've got to get done. I've got a lot of adjustments to make this week. So today is going to probably be a pretty short day because it's going to be an early morning. I got some stuff I got to deal with tomorrow during the daytime. So I can't be up too late tonight. With that being said, I really appreciate you guys coming to tonight's show so we can talk about the brokerage aspects of things. We're going to have some more in-depth and larger conversations going forward. But whenever Z and Usman pops in, I'll be able to let them know, hey, y'all were supposed to come to the show. You guys got busy, but if you'd have came to the show, you would have seen. And always go back and look again. So if you miss a show, if you come into the show today and you know that we're live 7 nights a week and you haven't seen some of the stuff that we've done, you can always go back and just go play. And just like I told Z and Cody D, put the show on play, put it on speakerphone, turn the volume up, put it off in a corner somewhere and use it as black background noise. Just listen to it while you're doing some other stuff. He said they play hooky. Yeah. Well, Usman's taking care of his I think it's his mom. It's either his mom or his grandma in the hospital, so he doesn't always have internet where he's at. So I can't fault him for that. He was telling me that on Monday and Tuesday that he had that issue last week. So if he's over there, that's why he's not here on the show. So I don't hold nothing against these guys. I know that some of these guys are not here because they have other stuff to do. And I completely respect that. I would prefer for you to take care of your business than to be sitting here wasting your time listening to me talking to you about how you should be taking care of your business, because that's a hypocritical position to be in, to say I'm going to watch a podcast about making myself better, but I'm not going to put forth effort into making myself better. I would hate for that. So I got much respect for Usman and Cody D for doing what they got to do in life and then coming to the podcast when they've got free time, extra time, because you got to prioritize things. You have to prioritize time to learn. Then you have to prioritize time to put what you learn to action. You can't just sit here and listen about all the good ways to make yourself successful. You got to actually try this stuff, look into it, talk to some extra folks. I'm probably the tip of the iceberg of the information. Once you heard it from me, now you can write down what I said and go other places and ratify that situation. And now you already know where you can go and what you can do. Now you just got to call somebody and be like, hey, can you make this happen? I heard through the grapevine that this stuff can get done. Whether or not they can do it or not is a good question. It can be done. You just got to talk to the right person. Now, do I need to make a list of individuals who will do it for you? I can, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Just like when Z asked me about the brokers last week, I gave you 5 U.S. brokers and 5 or 6 international brokers so that you can invest using third-party platforms to make money for you from companies that do direct transactions with specific sources, which allows you to be able to invest in better ways. But if, like, for example, you're looking for good trust lawyers, that good law firms that are utilizable for trust. Now that I think about it, that's a fantastic idea, to just throw up a few that are here in America and a few that do international trust. And if I can find out where they're located at, which countries they're located at, I can't say I'm gonna get their exact address, but if I can find out what country they're located at, or since I recommended 3 countries that are tax-free countries that don't share knowledge with the U.S., I can find some trust lawyers in the U.S. and some trust lawyers in the 3 countries that I recommended for your irrevocable, non-guarantor, spendthrift, non-residential, abroad, offshore, tax-free trust. It's a long title. You got to find an anagram for that shit. But if I can find some lawyers or law firms that do it, I'll put that in tomorrow's show when we're talking about Chile and we're talking about Dubai, and I can throw that in there as well. And then you can just put that information together, because once you call the right lawyer who will give you the rest of the information that I didn't give you, they'll put it together for you. You could tell them all the stuff that you want going in there. They'll word it the way it needs to be worded to cover what needs to be covered. They'll tell you the ups and downs of it, and then you'll be set. If you're looking for cost, I can try to find cost. I can't guarantee a lot of stuff, because when you start talking about worldwide, some stuff in other countries isn't made public to the United States. So, sometimes the information isn't there. But like somebody I was talking to the other day gave me the name of a company, and I was able to tell them when the company was established, what the address of the company was, the phone number of the company, and she wasn't expecting me to do all that. And I'm like, well, that's just how the information works. I can get a lot of information for free, and then I could pay some money to get the rest of the information that wasn't free. So it just really depends. Now, from the free side of things, I get a lot of information, and since it was free to me, I'm gonna share it with you, so it's free for you. But when it starts costing me money to get the information, that's the information that goes into the membership platform. So for those individuals that join the membership, y'all get exclusive knowledge to the stuff that wasn't free. But public knowledge, if it's free knowledge, I'm gonna share it for you for free on the channel. So with that being said, since now I got myself a new mission for tomorrow, we're gonna get Chile, Dubai, and trust lawyers for tomorrow's show in the US, Chile, Naviv, and Belize. That way, you guys will start piecing together this madness. And then probably later this week or sometime next week, we will talk about cheaper trusts that we can get ourselves into, because next week we're supposed to be talking about minerals that we can invest in. And then the week after that, on Tuesday, we're supposed to be talking about some side hustles and some subsidized income style scenarios that you guys can benefit from. Because once you get rid of your debt and take care of your credit score and set up your LLC and get everything situated, then you can start talking about going and doing you an SBA loan and get you $30, $50, $150,000 in capital, and take the money from the SBA loan, invest it, use the investments from the SBA loan to pay back use the profits from investing the SBA loan to pay back the SBA loan. That way the SBA loan covers itself, which builds credit for you and your business if you're the grantor of the SBA loan. So, but being a grantor of an SBA loan only works when you are when you have a pretty decent credit score, typically above a 650. Closer you get to 700, 720, the easier it is. But you also have to understand that with SBA loans, not all the time do they give money to real estate investments. So you have to have a business structure that you're utilizing when you're filling out your SBA loan, whether you're trying to do expansion or whatever you're trying to do, so that they can approve the loan for something other than, and then once they give you the money, you make it do what it do. As long as you pay the loan, they're going to be all right. So with that being said, ladies, that's all I got for you guys today. I want to make sure, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking ladies to make it make sense. Ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, we're about 70%. We had a lot of women come in over the past couple of days. We're about 70%, 72% men right now. I appreciate you guys showing us support. Special shout out to Bayside. Special shout out to Satellite. You guys showed us a lot of support tonight. Special shout out to Red Void, Danny Steffen. I see you over there watching us from Twitch. So it has been a fantastic shorter night than usual, but we're going to probably try to make that up tomorrow with all the information that we've got going on. So stay tuned. If you've guys got questions about other finance related information, if you've guys got questions about anything international that could potentially impact your economy or my economy, don't hesitate to throw that stuff into the comment section. If you've got some social interaction or relationship style topics that you guys want to ask questions about, hypothetical what ifs, rumors around the mill that you want me to debunk, by all means, throw those topics into the comment section, because once I see them, if I can make a show out of it, I will. And we'll talk about the things that matter to you guys, stuff that you heard around the campfire that you were kind of interested in, but you don't really have the details to. And I can just kind of tell you what's what about that, so that you know the pluses and minuses of the real facts. as opposed to some of the hypotheticals, because there's a lot of stuff that you're seeing on social media where certain people are clickbait, putting stuff up there using a fundamental real topic, but producing false information on that real topic, where people are looking at that as that should be real information and then acting on it, which is false information. I provide you with the debunked information, and then you take action on that. And the action that I recommend that you take is researching what I said to confirm it, and then taking action on the confirmation, because I don't want you to just take my word. I want you to take my word for it. But in order for you first person accountability to improve your decision-making process, instead of just trusting the word of a random individual, you ratify their information with peer review investigations. And then once you have solidified the confidence in the information that you've received, you can act on it, because you can trust that every time I've given it to you before, it's been legit, which means if I give it to you this time, you can say, yep, he's a trusted source. I can take whatever he says on face value and go take it to the bank, cash it, and get some change back. Now, once you get to that level, you can take my recommendations. But you got to understand that here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not an attorney. I am not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a CPA. I am an individual, an entrepreneur that definitely does what it takes to make myself financially successful. And I am putting all of the effort into doing the mentorship style provision of common knowledge that it needs to be passed not only down, but across to my peers, so that we can learn how to make ourselves financially more effective, and we can teach our children how to be more financially effective at the same time. So one more time on my way out the door, I want to thank you guys for coming to tonight's show. Thank you for coming to This and That. My name is Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. yield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.